So Stefan, again, thank you so much for being with me and today. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I know that you've had your Hogan reports beforehand. So did you understand those? Yeah.
I would say in general, yes, they are quite straightforward. And yes, of course, there are some outliers. I know myself, but generally I would say yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into Hogan. In fact, you're going to do that yourself later on, Stefan. But what for you were the key learning things about yourself from Hogan?
I mean, if I take a look at the numbers, it became very obvious to me that I'm obviously a very people-focused person.
Yeah.
That will definitely be surrounded within a group of people. So I'm quite social. I'm always concerned about how people perceive myself, and I'm not that guy who really focus on money, on status, on commerce. That also became obvious to me. And I truly believe that I'm really best performing within in a team where I can strive, where I can build some network and really collaborate with different people.
Good. Okay. So Stefan, I'm going to start with the competency of collaboration, which is good because that's also the one you talked about being team focused, and you kind of like that in your life and in your work life. Right at the beginning, Stefan, what I want to say to you is this. Remember, you're not speaking English as your first language, yeah? And I'm Irish, and I rattle on, and sometimes I speak far too quickly. So, Stefan, please tell me to slow down if I'm going too quickly. And also, please remember that if I've asked you a question in a way that you don't understand, I really need you to tell me that, because that will help you, yeah? And I won't be embarrassed in the least, Stefan, if you say to me, Kieran, I didn't understand that. Is that a deal?
Perfect. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Are you comfortable for me to start then?
Yes, we can start right away.
Brilliant. Okay, so thinking about collaboration, Stefan, what I want you to tell me, give me some examples of you working with others in your organization, and also maybe one or two examples of you working with multi-stakeholders, where you are working together to come up with a new product or a new value or a new solution to something. So give me some examples of you working with groups in your organization and multi-stakeholders.
Yeah. So I think one of my most recent examples, so maybe you're aware, I used to work in sales.
Okay.
And as a salesperson, you need to bring in the money. And I remember dealing a large client, and the founder, he had some tax issues. So the German authorities, they put him into jail. And during that time, he had outstanding balances. And so my challenge was on the one side, I needed to make sure that we get the money in to really achieve the quota. At the same time as this popped up in the newspaper in Germany, and we were a big company, so a lot in focus in the newspapers. There were some other stakeholders from the legal perspective, from the PR perspective, and so the challenge for me was it was in advertising. We wanted to keep that advertiser, let's say, alive, up and running.
Good.
And we had challenges to communicate with him. At the same time, I was kind of in the situation to really balance different viewpoints, different needs within the company, without getting out of sight that I need to get the quota in, right?
Okay, so stay with that one for a moment, Stefan, and give me maybe 2 or 3 other examples, and try to do that relatively quickly for me. So examples of you working in a multi-stakeholder or within your organization in groups.
Okay, so of course we on a constantly basis we launched different products, and on the one side I needed to really focus on the view of the user. You might have seen that I used to work for Google, so and of course I really try to understand what is the value proposition for a user, Does it make sense to launch a product for a user? At the same time, as a salesperson, I try to really get an advertiser on that new product. And so I always needed to really understand different viewpoints and what might be the ideal solution. Should I push an advertiser into a new product and he might annoy another a user just to get the quota in, or should I push back? Does it make sense to you?
Yeah. So we have product launching. How many product launches do you reckon you would have done?
Oh, I would say in total maybe 10, 15.
Okay, so you got plenty of experience of working in collaboration to launch products, yeah?
Yeah, of course, between engineering, between sales, between PR, between legal.
Okay, that's good. Good, okay. Any other examples you want to give me before I start asking you some detailed questions about them?
In terms of collaboration?
Yeah.
I mean, I was representing the telecommunication industry from the Google standpoint,
Okay.
and maybe, I mean, it's obvious we had this kind of a friend-foe situation with the telcos. On the one side, there were big advertisers bringing the money in.
Yeah.
At the same time, as we are kind of a communication vehicle, it was challenging for me. We often had this kind of really challenging conversation with the advertiser, with telcos, because we were, as Google, undermining their core business, really making money from the internet, and they saw us kind of a foe, a threat to them. So it was always like really understanding different viewpoints, different needs, and how I was able to navigate through that, giving everybody, every stakeholder, good, let's say, a good understanding about the value proposition of all stakeholders. It was challenging, especially during that time.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you about the product launching examples. I want to talk to you about the first issue about the sales and the guy who was in trouble with the legal system. And I'm going to ask you a very series of questions on that. If there's another example that comes up during the time, then please let me know. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, that's fine.
So thinking about, let's go to the legal issue first. Yeah. What did you do that encouraged the different people, like the legal people, the marketing people, the advertising people? What did you do to get them to come together to find the solution to keep your numbers up, but also to help the others in that what they wanted from the deal?
Okay, I mean that was a process of over, let's say, a few weeks, and so we introduced weekly catch-ups and meetings where everybody was able to share their viewpoints, to really state clear what their main focus is from a legal perspective, from a quota perspective, from a communication perspective, and then we mutually try to develop the best compelling way to move forward, because during that time it was truly challenging whether we should shut this advertiser down. And you need to keep in mind, this advertiser was among the biggest ones in Europe, and employments, they had, let's say, 1,500 people working for them, and shutting them down because they were highly dependent from us would have been a big threat for us.
So that's good. You said that we established weekly catch-ups. We came up with a shared view about what was going to happen. What specifically did you do? What was your role in facilitating that?
I introduced the meetings, and I try to understand who should be involved. Is it the legal team, the PR team, the risk team, the senior management? So I approached everybody and said, okay, we have a big issue. We truly need to get everybody behind one wheel. Let's set up a meeting and let's catch up regularly to really get everybody on board and come up with the best solution, because this is truly challenging. Quota-wise, at the same time, this might be a big threat in the press when this comes a big issue.
So it was you that was leading this, yeah?
Yes and no. I was leading this from the advertising standpoint. Of course, given the, let's say, importance of the advertiser, the senior management, especially the managing director of Google, was also on board, and he was kind of supervising it and really, yeah.
And then, and what feedback did you get from the other people about your interventions and how you supported this?
I mean, I think verbally there has not been a real feedback. It turned out to be really, I mean, we were lucky that so the due balances, they were paid. We kept the advertiser online, and fortunately there was not really a shutting down of the advertiser. But during that time there was a lot of communication, and it required a lot of networking internally to really going back and forth, and really, let's say, give pushback to the legal team, because they try to really push us on shutting the campaigns down. And yeah, fortunately, we went back to the advertiser saying, okay, we need this balances paid, otherwise we will get a lot of trouble. So I would say the result was great, but verbally, of course, my manager said, okay, you were able to really balance the situation. But the verbal feedback, I would say, was quite limited.
Okay, alrighty. Go back to product launching. Give me one of your product launch examples. And thinking about that, the same sort of collaboration skills that you used here in terms of bringing people together, getting catch-ups, finding a win-win. Is there some comparisons you can think of in product launching here?
I would say absolutely not, because the most complex situation I had was the situation prescribed beforehand. Yeah. And collaboration in terms of product launches, of course, I sometimes needed to give pushback when, for example, Google launched a product that doesn't truly make sense for a certain advertiser. And so my main role was to give feedback from the management perspective to say, okay, that product doesn't make sense for this advertiser, because I try to focus on the relationship in the long run, instead of just in the short run receiving a quota and making some money out of the advertiser. I try to really, let's say, build trust, sustainability in the short term.
Right, yeah, I get that. Okay. So thinking to product launches and thinking about the management view, as you were saying just before, yeah?
Yeah.
Is there a time where you felt that you've had to enforce your own needs or the needs of your team, that it kind of we're not balanced, where you're enforcing your needs against the needs of other people?
So you mean, if I remember a time where I was kind of really forced to push forward for my view?
Yes.
Let me think. I think that that's something, let's say, against my nature. Of course, I mean, I remember a time as a manager, I was in the situation to grade people, to give them rates,
okay,
on a quarterly basis. So during that time, of course, I really to let's say, get my point clear, to argue my gradings. That was challenging to me, but to really, I'm not the A type guy of manager who really moves forward and pushes his viewpoint, because I always try to get everybody on board and see where is the medium way. Does it make sense to you?
Okay, yeah, it does. So can you think of a time when you've had to be more directive than you're comfortable being? Yeah.
I mean, of course, when you, for example, every quarter you receive the revenue quota from America.
So the quarter end, people get more directive. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, because I need to argue as a manager, that's the quota, and we need to achieve the quota. And there is no way to argue against it. Let's take it as it is. I know it's challenging, but let's try to see it as a challenge, and let's move forward in getting the money in. It's just the way it is. Yeah. And yeah.
Okay, but have you had reaction to you being directive from time to time, particularly at quarter end?
let's say I try to be a part of the team to really get everybody on board, just not to instill the quota and push for the quota. I really try to be member of the team, saying, okay, look, guys, it's just the way it is. Here's the quota. It's challenging the next quarter. I know we have certain circumstances within our customer base to really achieve the quota.
Yeah.
But there is no way to argue against it. Let's see it as a challenge. Let's move forward, and I can't do anything about it.
Okay, thank you. Let's move back to product launching for a moment. Yeah. So when you work together with other teams in product launching, yeah, you think of opportunities you've had to be creative, to find new ways of doing things and new solutions, where you've led and encouraged teams to work together to create new ways of doing things?
Yeah, I remember the time, especially I was referring to the big advertiser. They were, let's say, they were very active in the German market, and they expanded their advertising campaigns to different other countries, such as Spain, France, Italy, and so on. And what we realized is, given, let's say, the fast-paced nature of the advertiser, if you want to get the money in quite quickly, it truly makes sense to focus on this advertiser, to consult him to expand to new markets, such as China, as Russia. And so what I did is, we as a team and I as a manager, we introduced several reportings that we could show the advertiser that it makes sense to, let's say, expand the product to Russia, to China, because we knew, given the nature and, let's say, the quickness of the advertiser, it truly makes sense from the sales perspective, because they are very quick in launching new products. So we established new reportings. We communicated with various markets to get insights about, let's say, the demand side of products, to pull together different reportings, then go back to the advertiser, show it to the advertiser, and approach him saying, okay, so look, you are absolutely fabulous in the German market, in the Spain market, in the Italian market. Why not really duplicating that product and expanding that product to Russia, to China? Because you got such a big opportunity. And of course, that's value for the user, that's value for the advertiser. And finally, for me as a salesperson, because I knew this is a very, let's say, quickly evolving advertiser, it truly makes sense to easily scale the revenue up.
Good. And could you then use that with other clients? Did you use that with other clients?
We tried, but dealing, let's say, you on the one side, you deal with a very, very, let's say, startup type advertiser, very hands-on, less procedures, willing to spend money right away. It's easy to scale. At the same time, in dealing with clients like Telefonica, Vodafone, Deutsche Telekom, it's the complete opposite. Even though they were in the same market, they were not able to really catch up at the same pace like this advertiser. However, what we try to do is, as a positive approach, we use the fast advertiser as the role model, in influencing processes of the others, saying you need to be quicker. You have to implement new processes in order to keep pace, in order to really quickly launch new products, and it's about quickness. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. And how did they react to you telling them they need to be quicker? That feels a little directive to me, yeah?
Yeah, and they were kind of smiling, saying, okay, look, Stefan, we are Deutsche Telekom. We have processes, and we need to consider different viewpoints. We are not that quick like other advertisers. And it was kind of, they are arguing against me, even though they said, yeah, we understand you, but we can't do this. And I was constantly pushing, saying, okay, also understand you, but you want, let's say, insights from me of the entire market, and I can only say to you, it makes sense to be quicker, to implement new processes, to have lean product launching, to really keep pace within a very competitive environment. Because in the online world where you are in, you need to be very quick. And it's not about arguing against me, it's about understanding and committing for change. And let's work on that change.
Okay. So what does that feel like then to you? What did that feel like when you're giving a solution and you're trying to encourage them to take that on board, you're trying to work alongside them, and they were blocking you?
I mean, for me personally, it was kind of a challenge. And the most satisfying. I tried to, let's say, develop new approaches about how I could convince, how I could argue against these, and always try to, let's say, when there's a strong argument against my recommendation, I try to be creative in really developing a new approach. What makes their argument weaker.
Okay. Can you just to wrap up then, Stefan, in this, can you think of a collaboration that failed? Can you identify yourself within that failure?
So collaboration means in working in a team, across teams.
Yeah, working with a team or working with stakeholders where the collaboration didn't work.
I mean, I was a salesperson in another role. That's let's say that's a person-related issue, but so that during that time, that was the most challenging time for me. But it was a matter of my manager was not able to see the value in collaborating across different teams. And he was always pushing me forward as a salesperson, let's say as a lonesome rider. And I tried to collaborate within that company. And he tried to always, focus. He tried to make me focus on the numbers, on the revenue. And I tried to see the bigger picture of the company, to work with different teams in order to influence the process at all in a positive way. And so that was, let's say, a confrontation situation between him and myself, because from my viewpoint still, it's better to influence processes on a broader range in a positive way, instead of just in the short run getting the money in.
Yeah.
And so
how, Stefan, did you manage that conflict?
Oh, let's put it that way. I tried to change it in a positive way, to make my viewpoint clear, to argue why I think it makes sense in the way I do it. So that was not possible. So he was very directive.
Okay.
And I said, okay, you can't change him. Second opinion might be, you need to accept this guidance. Yeah. And to me, emotionally, that was not possible to really accept his guidance, because I was of quite the opposite opinion during that time.
Yeah.
And then I finally left the company. So I said, okay, I tried to change, not possible. I tried to adapt to that situation. Emotionally, for me, that was a really challenging time. So I said, okay, you can't really follow that leader because I'm totally against his viewpoint. And then I decided to leave the company, because I said, okay, I tried everything possible to change to the better. So not able to adapt. Let's see.
Okay. Would you have done, in retrospect now, having thought about your behavior at the time, could you have behaved differently?
Of course, I had to maybe try to stay longer and to be more, let's say, continuous in giving the situation more time to evolve in a positive way. But let's say in terms of the steps I took to really approach him directly, saying, okay, that's my viewpoint. Let's mutually try to find a good way how we should proceed. And then understanding he's not really, he can't be influenced by me. So the result would have been quite the same, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. And just to conclude, if you were to give anybody advice on what are the top 3 things you know about forming great collaborations and working across teams, what would you say?
I would say engage with every stakeholder.
Yeah.
Truly understand different viewpoints of stakeholders.
Uh-huh.
And try to find the win-win situation for everybody.
Good. All righty. Good. Stefan, you've told me enough. Thank you so much.